Kelly, and now welcome and recognize the Chairman of the Subcommittee on Oversight and Investigations of the Committee on Veterans Affairs, Mr. Coffman from Colorado, who's been showing leadership on supporting our veterans for many years. Welcome you for your opening statement, sir.
Thank you, Chairman Hurd. I would like to welcome everyone to today's joint hearing to address ongoing issues with the electronic health records, or EHRs, of the Department of Defense and Veterans Affairs. VA and DoD have been attempting to harmonize their EHRs for decades, leading to an erratic history where billions of dollars have been expended to reach that goal. Initially, they sought to make their systems interoperable, the plan being that they could keep their separate systems, but make them able to seamlessly transmit critical data. Later, the agencies abandoned that idea and decided that it would be better to create a new integrated system that would be shared by both agencies. In February 2014, in a February 2014 report, GAO found that the VA and DoD Interagency Program Office, charged with overseeing these efforts, estimated the cost of this integrated system would be $29 billion from FY 2013 through FY 2029. Notably, this figure does not include the pre-2013 attempts by the agency to join their health records dating back to at least 1998. Yet again, the decision was made to switch course, this time abandoning the efforts to create an integrated system after spending at least $564 million on it and resuming pursuit of separate systems that would ideally achieve full interoperability. There have been numerous subcommittee investigations, hearings, and GAO reports highlighting the extreme dysfunction occurring in this process. The National Defense Authorization Acts for fiscal year 2008 and 2014 were explicit in their requirements for VA and DoD to jointly develop fully interoperable EHR systems, as well as to ensure that all healthcare data contained in both agencies' systems complied with national standards and were computable in real time. Both agencies have failed to meet this legal requirement by missing the October 1st, 2014 deadline to do so, and GAO has found that full interoperability will not occur before 2018. Additionally, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services developed criteria to incentivize meaningful use of certified EHRs in order to help promote health data interoperability. In the private sector, the path towards compliance and certification with those criteria is generally done using commercial off-the-shelf software. Use of successfully deployed off-the-shelf software lowers risk of project failure, reduces time to get to the desired capability, and generally speaking, costs less at implementation and sustainment, none of which appear to matter to VA. Instead, VA opted to create a proprietary system which many of its healthcare facilities across the country have further customized, leading to 130 different electronic healthcare systems. Unfortunately, this sort of disarray and failure to produce positive results has become the hallmark of VA's Office of Information and Technology. There has been a substantial personnel change in that office, which is encouraging. But there is a tremendous amount of damage that must be undone before these agencies' EHRs can meaningfully interact. The National Defense Authorization Act, I look forward to hearing from the witnesses today about the rationale for the decisions that have been made, as well as the plans to correct decades of information security weaknesses within both departments. With that, I yield back to Chairman Hurd. I'll begin with questions. Ms. Counsel, as required by the NDAA of 2014, all VISTA data was to be in a compliant format established by the Office of the National Coordinator for Health Information Technology, or the ONC, but VA stated it would not certify until later in 2015. Has VA certified its compliance to the standard?
Want to take that, Brian?
Mr. Burns?
Yes, I'll have Mr. Brian respond, because I want to make sure we're precise on this answer.
Okay.
At this point, we have not certified to the 2014 requirement, the October 1st, 2014 requirement. The approach we took is we identified 25 domains. From those 25 domains, we prioritized those. The first 7 we looked at were the most frequently used, the most high volume, and what we consider the most relevant terms. Those we did do data mapping to, and then we continued to map from there, and we're still continuing to do that process. As we go forward, we also do updates to each one of those respective domains to make sure that any additional terms that come in are also mapped. Those then are used in data maps that go into the capability of sharing the information with JLV. So at this point, we have data maps for most of the sets. We have partial mapping for most of the sets at this point.
Okay. Mr. Miller, nearly 6 years after a 2010 GAO report discussed the need for VA and DoD to address unstructured data, what has the IPO done to accomplish the interoperability of unstructured data or the development of a national standard?
Sir, I would offer a couple of things, sir. We do have a dedicated IPO, Dr. Lauren Thompson. She reported aboard in May. For some time, I was wearing 2 hats, but I'm no longer wearing 2 hats. I think that's reflective of our commitment to the IPO and the work that they do. With regards to national standards, you heard in my opening comments, our strategy has been to partner with the Office of the National Coordinator for Health IT in identifying those areas and what standards we need to have, and to leverage things like ONC certification, and then to bring those forward between the 2 departments, and let's determine jointly what those standards needs to be, and then promulgate those back out to both departments. I think you will see on both the DoD and the VA, those standards are incorporated. If you were to go look inside the DoD's acquisition program, you would see where those are required. As part of our modernization, they were part of our technical package. Those things are currently flowing back to both departments. The IPO is basically responsible for working between the 2 departments, providing technical leadership to make sure that those standards apply, and then and bringing things back to the Office of the National Coordinator where we need refined standards and improvements in standard. Just recently, the IPO took a very strong leadership role in looking at things like the CCDA document, which is a consolidated document that provides a transition of care within the commercial side that DoD and VA are both using as part of our exchange with our commercial providers. And so those are the kinds of activities where the IPO is taking strong technical leadership and helping us understand what the appropriate national standards are. I think as everybody's highlighted today, the national standards piece is much bigger than just DoD and VA, and we need to have a strong collaboration with the leadership of HHS.
Ms. Melvin, in February 2014, GAO reported that VA and DoD failed to correctly implement the IPO, and further noted the diminished role the IPO plays between VA and DoD. Considering this finding, what purpose does the IPO serve in its current state, and similarly, is there a need for the IPO at all?
Well, I'd start by saying that the IPO was established by the National Defense Authorization Act for 2008. So it has a specific function in statute to be the single point of accountability for VA and DoD achieving the electronic health record. Several of our reports, in fact, have noted that the position of the office has not been specific to or as connected to the overall function for which it was assigned. We have seen it having a limited role in the department's current efforts over time. It's been what I would describe as more of an evolving role, and it's one that it is reasonable that one would question its current responsibilities and whether it should exist. Having said that, the IPO is currently responsible for developing the national standards, or at least identifying the national standards that the VA and DoD are to adhere to. So they do have an important function. I think the important thing about it is that it must be clear what the role of that office is going to be. If it's not going to be at the level of a role of authority, a single accountability office for authority, then it is important for the agencies and for Congress to determine what their role should be.